In 1985, Brian Mincy was convicted of killing his girlfriend's 5-year-old son. And Penny Warren was on that jury that found that the murder was premeditated, which actually gave Mincy an automatic death sentence. So the system worked a little different there. So she joins us now from San Diego. Penny, so good to talk to you. And
thank you.
Penny, first, tell us what it's like in these kinds of deliberations. Because as I understand it, in your room, there were discussions that were had, and it took some time to come to a decision.
Well, I think, first of all, we just took a vote just to see where everybody was at. And not everybody was on the same page. And we just went through everything. We discussed everything over and over and over. And it's been 30 years, so I cannot remember how many days we were deliberating. But it finally came down to one woman, and that just couldn't, which I happen to think might be happening with this jury, with Jodi Arias's jury. And we finally convinced her. It just took a while.
How did you convince her?
And I guess it was just going over and over and over what this man had done to this poor little boy. You know, this poor, innocent little boy. And as a mom, that was a really hard thing to deal with. And I might mention that after it was all over, my husband at the time and I explained to my little girl, who's now 40, what I had been doing. When she found out that we had sent this man to death, she was upset with me. And that was a kind of a thing that haunted me for a while. That because she was too young, you know, to really understand why we did what we did. And it is a burden. It's a big burden.
So you make the decision, you come home, and you have to deal with your daughter as well and explaining it to her. Over time, did she understand?
Well, you know, I was just telling someone that I have not even asked her today how she feels about this current trial with Jodi Arias. Maybe I'll do that today. And she knows that I'm here. So, but it is a struggle when you know that you have that burden of sending somebody to their death. And now he's had like 3 appeals, or he's on his 3rd appeal, and he's no longer on death row.
After all this time, 18 years, 3 appeals, and he's off death row.
30 years.
30 years. You're doing the math better than I am. Yeah, 30 years. My goodness. Now, you say it's... Now, I want to ask you about this. You say it's really hard to give someone the death penalty, even if you feel like they've done something wrong, like this man had done in this case. Why is that?
Yes. Well, I think it's kind of a guilt thing, probably. But I never had any doubt that that was my feeling, that he deserved the death penalty. There was just that lingering feeling that this is what you are, you know, you are one of the people responsible for sending this man to his death.
So it's almost a head versus heart thing. You feel that, yes, I want to impose the death penalty, but you feel like in some ways it's your responsibility if he's put to death?
Well, that you're one of the people responsible. But you know, sincerely, I felt he deserved it. I still feel upset that he's not on death row anymore. And I only just learned that in the last couple of months. And now he's in the midst of his 3rd appeal, and those attorneys have reached out to all the jurors that were on that jury 30 years ago, and trying to get some information from them as the basis for why he's doing this appeal.
That's incredible, because I think a lot of people don't think about that even after you make this difficult decision, people could be reaching out to you 10, 20, 30 years later asking for information. Now, I want to ask you about something you mentioned to us, which is the photos that are shown in the courtroom. Tell me about the effect of those photos on you, of this little boy being shown in the courtroom.
I can still see them, and they were huge. You know, they were blown up huge, and it was he was a Caucasian boy. He had blonde hair, and I don't remember him being 5. I thought he was younger, but it doesn't matter. He was still a little boy. And just to see him beat to death, and it was with a 2x4. The pictures were the worst part of it, the worst.
And you had to see that often. And
yeah,
I think
every day.
And how does that then weigh in when you're making that ultimate decision, when you're in that jury room?
Oh, I think it weighed in a lot, you know. This poor innocent little boy, you know, who had no choice in this matter at all, just to lose his life because of this man who got angry with him. Yeah. And, you know, that I thought was reason to put him to death. You know, just seeing those photos, bloody photos. And those were, unlike Travis's, where where he had already started to decompose, his were very fresh. And, you know, the blood wasn't dry. It was just horrific.
Let me ask you about the.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you about the psychological effect of all of this, because you mentioned the impact on your daughter and your family, but for you, after making this decision, what was it like to live with this decision?
Well, I think I was okay. I think I was upset with a defense attorney that wrote a letter to our local newspaper, basically ridiculing us, criticizing us, and basically describing us as idiots for coming up with the decision that we did. And I think I was more angry with him at that time. And there was a lot of people, including me, that did on the jury that didn't speak to the press. But those that did were later contacted 2 different times by, I believe, the defendant's family, threatening them. But since I did not speak to the press, they did not know my name, and it never happened.
Penny,
so
one
those
more
people
question.
Really had.
I can't imagine what it must have been like for those people. One more question for you. What would you tell people? Because there's a lot of people out there, I think, who think, wow, it's been 12 hours, 40-some minutes. We haven't gotten a decision yet. I wonder why, since they already found Jodi Arias guilty of first-degree murder. What would you tell people about maybe why it's taking this jury a long time to come to a decision?
Well, a lot of the criticisms that I've read are, you know, they said that they could do this. They said that they could sentence somebody to death. But I think once you get inside that jury room, I think it becomes so real. And for people that maybe were on the fence, it's something that they wonder if they can really go through with. You know, it's a big decision. And I think probably there's one voice that I heard on this current jury with Arias, that when they were polling the jury, that she sounded very quiet and weak. In my opinion, it's probably 11-1, and it's probably because of this woman. That's just my impression, because that's what happened on our jury.
Okay.
It was
Penny,
down to a single woman.
You never know. You never know what that jury is thinking, but I applaud you for your courage in even making the decision. Penny, thank you.
Thank you. I just hope that people that are listening will just give them a break, the jurors a break, and know that, you know, they have a hard job, despite the fact that they think it's easy.
Yeah, amen to that. They got one of the toughest jobs of their life right in there making that choice. Penny, thanks.